content hack, mindset hack, same thing. Hey Lacey, good to have you here. Yes, if you're here, say hi. You know, I always want your opinions, feedback, anything you got around this. So here's what it is, and then we'll talk about it. And I'll give you lots of examples around it. But if there is, well, let's step back. If there is one thing that I think has changed in the online space, I was talking about this in a post I did on Instagram recently. It's how much trust is lacking, right? We are in this huge trust recession. Like it is just not what it once was. Like it used to be like, oh, if you would just get on live stream and talk like this, people trusted you. Now it's almost the opposite. It's almost like if you're getting on live stream and talking like this, people assume they shouldn't trust you, right? Sorry, I'm putting in hand cream. So that has changed a lot. And so we have to work against that. And I think knowing that we have to work against that also can make it even harder to show up sometimes because you're like, oh, okay, I have to like really build this trust and my content's so important and it means so much. And this is like, it stacks. This is make it or break it, blah, blah, blah. And it can get really intense in terms of feeling like, oh, I have to like make this work. I want to make people trust me, et cetera, et cetera. And what's also happened is that, consumer behavior around how we consume content has changed, or maybe I should say the type of content we want to consume has changed. I think we want so much less people talking at us and so much more storytelling, talking with us, hearing how we do things, right? So anyway, all that to say, here's the hack. The hack is you have to talk about something you are fully embodied in and really believe in. And when you do that, your mindset gets so much better. And the more you do it, the more people trust you and feel that from you too. I think what a lot of people do in the online space is they go, what are other people talking about? Oh, okay, I'm supposed to talk about that too. Well, that really stops working in a climate where trust is really scarce and where you have to talk from that I place, right? I think the most common, marketing knowledge or marketing recommendations that we all kind of like grew up on in business is like say you, don't say I, like talk about them, make it about them, right? And now it's like when I look at my shit and I'm like, oh, I said I in that reel, it popped off. Oh, I didn't. I was talking at them in that one. It didn't, like, right? And so if you're not talking about something that you are so embodied in and that you can fully get behind, and you're just going, oh, here's what other people want to hear or are saying, content is going to be so fucking tough for you because talking about it through that eye lens, showing your embodiment in it, building trust in it, if you don't have it nailed already in terms of like what you're doing and how you're operating, is going to feel like the hardest slog of all time ever. So here's what I mean. Let's just say you see other people are talking about like insert thing, a certain dollar amount, like 7-figure business. And so you're like, okay, well, that's what everybody wants. Everybody wants to hear about a 7-figure business. So I need to start talking about 7-figure businesses all the time. But you haven't built that yet. You're going to be working against yourself all the time. You're going to be making your mindset feel really bad. You're going to be second guessing yourself. It's not going to translate as well in your content. You're going to find it really hard to come up with stories and insights and connection points, right? Oh, I was like, I don't do that. And I just realized a place I might be. Oh, I love that, Lacey. I'm glad it like provided some perspective there. But it kills your mindset. And I think this is what most people miss, right? If you're trying to be like, okay, I'm supposed to talk for mine, I'm supposed to like manufacture this, you're going to feel shitty all the time. You're going to feel shame, or you're going to second guess yourself, or you're going to feel not embodied. I mean, talk about imposter syndrome. It's going to be through the roof, right? And we think that it's worth it to have to deal with all of that if we're talking about the thing we think they want. No, it is fucking not. It is not working for anybody when they're doing that. What works is being like, what am I fully living, breathing, embodying that is aspirational, that my people do want, that relates to my promise, that I can talk about all the fucking time. The more you do that, the more aspirational you will feel, the more your mindset will expand with that, the more you will feel like, oh yeah, I'm a bad bitch. Oh yeah, I'm getting that reflected, right? The more you're picking something that you don't already have all of those with, the more you are absolutely killing your mindset. And like there's this whole part of like the trust that we need to talk about too. But like I cannot talk to you about the mindset piece enough because this is why I see people not showing up right now. It's because they're like, well, I'm supposed to be talking about it in this way. And I'm like kind of not there. And so I'm constantly hiding. I'm constantly pulling back. I'm constantly posting once and then running away. Instead of being like, okay, well, what can I get behind right now? How can I, speak to this in a way that feels true and authentic and embodied? Because people can read that, right? You're giving off an energy with all of that. And so if you're talking about something that you absolutely cannot get your brain fully behind, you will feel not only weird in yourself, but your audience is going to feel that weirdness too, right? Whether they can name it or pinpoint it or say it, it's just going to feel like something is off. So when we're talking messaging, the number one question I'm asking my clients right now is like, what are you doing and what's working really well for you? What are you feeling totally embodied in? What are you crushing? How can you go translate that into your content and into your marketing? If you do that, shit gets so easy. If you are not doing that and you're going, well, seems like posts are popping off when people are talking about X. So I'm going to go try to talk about X. Like you're working against yourself so hard. And I know that this is like not easy to do always, but this is like the big challenge for all of us, I think, in this current climate or current environment is like the way I build trust with my audience and with myself in this current like kind of like storytelling personal brand era is by being really real and authentic about what that is. And so maybe for you, it's not a 7-figure business, but maybe you like love how you spend your day and time. Great. Talk about that all the time, right? Like make that the selling point. Or, opposite to that, like maybe you have a 7-figure business, but you're still working out like how supported you could be or how you spend your time. Fine. Talk about the 7-figure business. Like pick the thing that you feel so aligned and in integrity with. Make that your message and content. You are going to feel so much better from a mindset perspective if you do that. And it's going to pop more. Like truly, that is when content is taking off right now because we're feeling that energy from someone. We're like, oh, yes, that, I see her doing that, or I can see how she lives that, or whatever. When it's like, I'm trying to be someone I'm not or manufacture something I'm not, it almost always bites us in the ass. I feel like we've seen that with so many people. I mean, I can think of like a big influencer, a couple in our space that was like doing all these retreats on marriages, and then they got a divorce, and people were like, what the actual fuck, right? And it broke so much trust. It created so many issues for them. Instead, if they had been like, let's not do it on the thing we're kind of like not perfect at right now. In fact, maybe we just don't even talk about that. Maybe we talk about the thing we are doing really well, which is XXXX. Like that would go so much better. So I just say that because I feel like it's so obvious, but I don't think a lot of people are doing that right now. I don't think a lot of people step into that and embody that fully. I think we're so busy looking at everyone else and going, what am I supposed to be saying? What am I supposed to be talking about? Even in terms of like reels or whatever. Like I know sometimes people will say to me like, oh, like yours just seem really real. I want to do more like that. Insert thing, whatever. Like, oh, I love it when you're like, mine today was like in the bathroom. I love it when you're in your bathroom. Like, that feels so real. I need to do more like that. I'm like, don't do more like that unless that's true for you. The reason I do a lot of them in my bathroom is because when I'm doing my hair in the morning is when I'm thinking about this shit. And so it's the easiest for me to put my little phone down right there and record it while I'm doing my hair, like right after whatever. And so I think my audience feels that transmission. I'm not like, oh, I should go in my bathroom to make this seem authentic. I just literally am in my fucking bathroom when I'm thinking about that. So down to that level of detail, I feel like is what is really like helping so many people is because you can feel that, right? Lacey said, I think those things for me are showing up in business and in relationship, regardless of health body stuff, especially since I broke my butt. Oh no, and sprained my ankle in December and I'm still recovering. Yes, like that would be so good for you to be like, oh, okay, like I want to showcase that every single day. Like one thing I've been thinking about doing, tell me if you guys like this idea. You guys know my word of the year is main character energy. And so I've been thinking about like maybe on stories every day, I should be like, here's how I'm stepping into main character energy today. Like I want to show you how I'm doing that and embodying that. And like I think that that is where we can align. Even if everyone's not like, oh, my word of the year is not main character energy, there's still an alignment with like, oh, I love how she's showing up in that way. And Lisa, I think the same thing could be true for you. It's like all of your people might not have like a health or body issue at that moment, but they might be like, I love how Lacey is able to show up regardless of that. I love how, she still has like the life and business she wants, even when things get in the way. And so you can take these like micro things that you're super aligned in and apply them on a bigger scale. And people will apply them to themselves too. Okay, Nikki, yes, you like that. Okay, I think I should do it. I need to remember to do it, but I think I should do it. Um, Lindsay said it's obvious, but such a needed reminder. I'm constantly looking at people and thinking, how are they growing? How do they act? And then I spend more time thinking what someone else is doing. So one of my questions is, do we instead turn the focus on us and what we are doing and our client and build off of, on us and what we are doing and our client and build off of a client struggle? Yes, to that story idea. Okay, good. I'm glad you guys like that. We love to see main character energy because it doesn't always look like dominance. Sometimes it looks like surrender. Totally. Yeah, and I feel like I'm like so in it. So I'm like, I could show that so much. And again, it's not because everyone wants main character energy, but it's because it's like, watch me be embodied in this, feel this energy, right? So to Lindsay's question, I definitely think it's more of the like, I talked to a client about this week, and here's what I said. I'm really challenged by this right now, and I'm working on it. I've been doing this type of work, and it's really making a difference. When I hit X result, X thing changed for me, right? So it's really thinking about like, what is my lens, story, narrative, whatever, that I can then connect to the bigger message that I have. Excuse me. And I really think that's when it gets good. So 100% like not looking at how did someone else do that? It's more like, oh, they're probably just really embodied and you can tell and you can feel it. I saw this one reel. This is such a random example. Hey, Liz. Okay, good. I'm so glad that's helpful. Hey, Lisa. Here for help with content updates. Okay, so I saw this one reel. And it's really interesting because I'm going to try to be like non-specific because I'm going to say something mildly negative about it, but I don't mean anything negative. But this creator, the video was bad. Hey Adrian, and I don't mean, oh good. I'm so happy to have you here. I don't mean bad like bad. I just mean like the lighting was really bad, the angle was really bad. Like it just wasn't a visually appealing video in any way, shape, or form. But this creator said something that you could tell she was just so on. Like she was like, hey, everybody thinks about it like this. I think about it like this kind of thing. And it was so good. And so despite the fact that it was like completely not visually appealing in any way, like this video was going absolutely viral. I saw something she posted after and she was basically like, I got like 100,000 followers recently. And all she did was probably do something that was really aligned to her. Like she probably was like, I don't know, this is where I have my drink every day, so I'm just going to record it. And she said something that she was obviously so embodied and expert level in. So anyway, I say all that to say, like, you could go look at that and try to replicate it and be like, oh, okay, I should get kind of shitty dim lighting and I should like be making a drink and da 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 da, right? Or you could be like, oh, I'm feeding off the energy here more than I'm feeding off anything else. I'm feeding off the fact that like she is saying something in this way that is like, wow, you can tell that's fully landed for her. And like, I need some of that certainty or whatever that is. Like that is the stuff that's working. I could care less about lighting and stuff, but sometimes I just need to say things. Yes, totally. I really think that's it. Like, I really think so much of this, it's like, let us into your world. Don't try to manufacture a world anymore. I feel like old IG content was like manufacture a world a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, you're perfect, you're in front of the Eiffel Tower, like make me feel like my dream life is like, you know, in that world. And I think there's some truth to like, yes, we want aspirational for sure, but I think we need so much more real now. The manufactured world is not what any of us are loving. That's what broke a lot of the trust, right? What we're loving is the realness. Like, don't manufacture Paris if you're not going to Paris. Like, do whatever you're doing and is real for you. And that will make your content easier to create. That will make your mindset more on point, and that will definitely create better results. Adrian said for real. Nikki said there's such a difference, and you can tell when someone is just sharing revealed experience wisdom versus just something they heard someone else say. 1000%. Or even if you did, like, here's what I do. If I did hear someone else say it and I want to share it, I'll do it in the most aligned way for me by being like, y'all, I was scrolling TikTok and I saw this thing that said, because that is my truth. I fucking love a TikTok scroll. And so if you're hearing something from me 9 times out of 10, this is probably because I heard it on TikTok, right? Like, so it's like, you just have to figure out how to bring that in. And I think that that's what we are so not good at giving ourselves. And I think that's what the online space has almost trained out of some of us a little bit, where it's like, no, don't be that real. I mean, like, be aspirational, but like in this more like falsified way, instead of like, what's aspirational about your life right now? Can you share that? Can you say that? You know, like how Lacey was saying earlier, like what might be aspirational about her life is that she like broke her foot and she can still show up and handle shit and whatever. Like, is that being in front of the Eiffel Tower in Paris? No, but it's way more real, and it's way more what most of us want anyway, you know? Um, Same with the me in my bathroom thing. It's not like there's like an aspirational element to that. Like, I'm just getting ready in the morning. But it does feel aspirational, I think, in the sense that whatever I'm saying, I usually feel pretty excited about and pretty embodied around and pretty like, I need you to hear this kind of thing. That's what works there. It's not because like a bathroom video works. Again, that's when I happen to be thinking about stuff while I'm curling my hair. And so it's when I do it. Like, that's the stuff we have to really pay attention to, I think. And you get to decide whatever that version is for you. And there's no like right version of it. You know what I mean? Like, again, I just think it's so easy to be like, oh, I see someone always doing it in this way, and so I should do it in that way. No, I look to my own life for stories, for experience, right? Nikki said people responded so well when I was real, when I shared an AI image and told them it was because I accidentally got too much Botox and couldn't smile when I got branding photos, so I couldn't use them. Whoops, bingo. Like, that is so it, where it's like, oh, she's like a real human and she's going to tell us the truth. That builds trust, right? It really fucking does. Like, that is when trust is built. Lens, why am I most passionate when I'm in my PJs without makeup, not put together? Honestly, if that is true for you, fuck it, do that. Like, the PJs and no makeup are literally not going to matter to your client unless you're like a stylist and a makeup artist. It's totally irrelevant. And I know it's not always the most comfortable, but that will go so much further. This is just like a dumb example, but like something I've always been like, oh, I should do that. Oh, I'll do that. That's cute. I should do that. Like, I've always seen people like do like little videos with their kids running around behind them. Like, they'll just like pull up their video while their kids are like obviously playing outside or something, and they'll be like, okay, so I just want to talk to you about da da da. And I always like love how real that feels. Like, you feel like you're like in the moment with them. I'm never inspired to do that when I'm with my kid. Like, my brain just doesn't really live in two places like that. Sometimes I'll take B-roll with Bennett, but like, it's rare. So anyway, my point in saying that is like, even though I love that as a consumer, even though I think that's cute, I will never create the best content that way. Like, that is not natural for me at all. I don't find that easy. I don't find it very simple to multitask. My brain, unfortunately for me, isn't wired in that way. And I think people would feel it. Like, I think if I tried to do that, it would feel off. Like, so anyway, that's just a stupid example, but like down to that level of detail, I actually do think it matters. Yeah, Lacey said, Lindsay, show us. Adrian said I grew my TikTok to like 30K in 3 weeks in 2021, posting unhinged pregnancy content. And it was orange as fuck lighting, old farmhouse and nighttime, and no one cared. Perfect. That is the content I want to see more of because it's real. Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, that's personally why I love TikTok so much, is because it does feel more like that. It feels like more unhinged, a little more real. I think it's a lot more trust building. And I think we just have to be moving in that direction. Um, because I mean, I was gonna say it's gonna be, but it's like, it's here. It's easy as fuck to manufacture these like pictures in front of the Eiffel Tower. I'm just using that because it was like everybody in the coaching space at a certain point. But like it's easy as fuck to manufacture those now. Like I could have AI do one of those of me today, and I'm sure it would, well, it'd be hit or miss, but I'm sure I could pick out one that would be beautiful. Um, but it's just not what people want in the same way anymore. And so many people have been burned by some level of like, I bought into what I thought that was instead of what that really was, that now they're like, antennas are up for that. You know what I mean? Versus like when you post an AI picture and you're like, hey, sorry about this, my Botox. They're like, oh, that bitch is real. Like, thank you for saying that. That's happened to me before. Or like, that hasn't happened to me before, but I had a different situation happen to me like that. And I wish I would have been brave enough to share. Like, that's when people start resonating with us. And I just think it's really uncomfortable. I mean, personally, for me, and I try to share this every chance I get, it is genuinely uncomfortable for me um to be more like that. I mean, it's not that I mind transparency. I actually really, really like that. But that's why my word of the year is main character energy, because having more of like this spotlight version of myself, I have to try at that. It's funny. I talked about this in my stories, but I went to this dinner or this party last week. One of my best friends here just got she just made partner at her law firm, and it was just like one of the most beautiful nights I've had, just getting to like center her, and that was so special. But when I walked in, we caught eyes from across the room, and I was like, oh, she's like a deer in headlights right now, because to be in that and be like, this whole thing is about you, all of it's about you. So I walked up to her and I'm like, how you doing, babe? And she was like, it's a lot for me. And I'm like, I know, it's a lot, right? So think about that. It's almost like our party on Instagram, and we're talking about how great we are and how we're hitting these milestones. And like, there is an uncomfortable element of that. Again, personally, for me, I have to stretch that edge. I like much prefer to be like that dinner was it for me. Like getting to celebrate her, spotlight her, be like, I'm here to like bask in this energy, and we get to talk about how amazing you are. I could do that all day. If that was for me, I'd also be a little bit more of the deer in headlights, but it's a call for all of us to stand in that energy more. Again, it's like what I'm working on this year. Um, and so I say that to say, like, it is not simple. Like, what I'm saying is like, just be embodied and then go talk about it. Like, yes. And obviously it's harder than that. Obviously it was easier when there was some of this like manufactured brand. Obviously it was easier when we were talking out people, not with them. Obviously it was easier when we're like, oh, look, I'm just a perfect little expert. There were pieces about that that were easier. And there were probably also people then who were like, oh man, that was so much harder for me. This is actually so much easier. It doesn't matter. Point is, this is what people want right now. This is what's building trust. And it's a great personal development exercise. Just like before, when people had to be more of an expert, is a great personal development exercise on imposter syndrome and stepping into that and like having to hold your expertise and claim that. It's just a different version of that right now. Um, but it's so valuable and it's so important. And it's such a call for all of us to do more of that. Nikki said, I think when you share content in the way you're describing, you're actually returning people to their own power by showing them what it looks like to be in yours. That is like so beautifully said, Nikki. I could not agree more. I think you said that so succinctly. Is like, and I think there's also like an invitation of like, here we get to be who we are. Welcome. And I think people really feed off that energy, because when you are who you are unconsciously giving other people permission to be who they are. And we love that. Right? When you're like, I'm this certain brand, you know what happens to that? You go to that group call with them, and you have to be this certain person or whatever, right? And you have to like fit into the narrative, or you have to like fit the box, instead of being like, oh yeah, everyone gets to be who they are. So like if your version is no makeup and jammies and my version is curling my hair, who the fuck cares? Everybody's welcome here. We're all doing a great job. Versus a coach being like, oh, well, my videos perform best. I'm curling my hair in the morning, so I really suggest you do that because like that is not the point. That is not the point, right? Nikki said we love that. Yes. And so I really believe this is how we start to build trust again. And I also believe that so many brands will struggle to do this. Um, I think that especially for those of us who have been in this space for a really long time, it's a hard ass shift. I think a lot of people that have been around the block are struggling pretty hard because they're like, oh man, like what I used to get to do here is post like a branding photo of me and call it a day. What I'm being called to do now in terms of realness, authenticity, transparency is like this whole other fucking level. And so I think this is a really big like fork in the road for people of like, are you going to double down on like who you are, what you embody, how you can show up in that, how you can speak to that? Or are you like, this only worked for me when I didn't have to let you in? This only worked for me when I could keep everyone, very far away at arm's length. You know, it's different. It's a different game. Adrian said just showing up isn't enough anymore. We have to focus on connecting fully. Totally. I mean, that again, I feel like I'm talking about this, but I also grieve for the days when it was that simple, when it was just like, if you showed up enough, you'd get a client. I mean, right? I could repurpose content for like 3 years because it didn't matter because I was like showing up consistently. Like, yeah, I fucking miss that. Um, but I also like this better in a way. I also like how connected I feel. I also like getting to connect this way with other people, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, there's like massive value to it too, but like it has changed. And so if you are not searching within, yeah, 2020, 2021 was the vibe, man. Oh, Adrian, the good old days. But yeah, if you are not searching within and you are not going, what can I fully, consistently, and constantly back myself in? And then how do I go talk about that? How do I go own that? How do I go embody that? Like, it's going to get really tough really fast. You are going to constantly be in imposter syndrome because you're going to be like, I should be talking about that, but I'm not like quite at that. Da, da, da. Stop building a personal brand on a thing that you are not personally embodied in. Like, if I could frame it in one sentence, that would be it. Stop building a personal brand on something you are not personally embodied in. That simple, right? If you are doing that, it will feel bad. Like, one thing I feel like I have always done that I'm proud of myself for, this is kind of random. Oh, let me see what Nikki said. Cue all the attachment issues when we have to connect to people. Kidding, kind of. I don't think I did this yet. Maybe I have it planned. Nikki, you told me to do a live stream on attachment in business, and I'm almost positive I have that planned. I didn't do it yet, right? Maybe I'm having deja vu. But anyway, yes to all the attachment shit. Um, oh, this is what I was gonna say. Something that I think I'm really that I've always like stayed quite consistent with that I think has served me a lot is I've always been really honest that I like to work. I feel like there's like always this, narrative in our space of like, how little can you work? I like to have a life. I have like a really beautiful full life outside my business. But the truth is, I fucking like to work. Um, I'm not someone who just wants to work 15 hours a week. I'm just not. Maybe I will be. I give myself permission to be that, but like I'm just not super wired like that. I just never have been, like, ever. And so I say that to say it would have been easier for me to build a brand around like, oh my gosh, like you could work 10 hours a week, blah, 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 blah. I have never leaned into that because it's not real for me. It's not true for me. It's not what I do. I have a nanny. I work. I think we have a nanny only like 30 hours a week. So obviously it's not like I'm like, I work 70-hour weeks either. But like at the end of the day, like that's true for me. I will share that a lot of my clients don't work that much because that's what they chose. But like if I was out here marketing, like work very little, I work so little, blah, 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 blah. Even though that's working so well from a marketing standpoint, the amount of shame and embarrassment and fear I would feel that I was going to get found out or whatever. Like, I remember when my son's schedule changed and I like take off a pretty large chunk of the afternoon and just like fully focus on him. And I was responding to clients at night a lot. One of the first things I did was write a post about how I often respond to clients in the evenings, or not in the evenings, at night sometimes. Um, because I was like, I never want to feel like I have to hide this, or like I'm doing one thing with my clients and acting like I'm preaching another, because everyone can sniff that out. You immediately break trust with that. It's not that they just don't trust you on the time thing, it's every single other thing. So whatever that is for yours, like you don't have to go with the trends. Do you know what I mean? Like again, that the trend of like how little can you work was such a huge trend for such a long time. And I was just like, I'm never gonna buy into that, because like that's not how I function best. That's not how I operate best. That's not me as like a 3-5 generator. Like it's just probably never ever how I'm gonna operate. So anyway, I just say all that to say, like, you know, do you like when you do that, it's so easy. Like nobody's mad at me when I'm like, I don't, like I like to work, but they sure as shit would be if I was pretending I didn't and then actually doing it, right? Lindsay said, I also feel like you have to be so authentic and connecting, but you have to do it in such small chunk of time because people's attention span is shorter than ever. I mean, 100%, totally true. Felicia said, how many hours would you say you work each week? Just curious, but that is so true. The ideal is not to not work, to make tons of money, but barely work. Yeah. I mean, or it's some people's ideal, and that's really okay. I'm happy to support someone in whatever their ideal is, but I just have to be honest about mine. I don't have to like manufacture it to look a certain way so that somebody who wants a different ideal hires me. Like, you know what I mean? I think that's really the ticket. I would say probably like 35 hours a week, maybe is my guess. Because like I was saying, we have the nanny about 30, but obviously I do some personal stuff for me in that time as well. And then I usually log on, back on like after my son goes to bed and do some quick client messages. So I would say 30, 35-ish probably. Nikki said that's how people lose trust, right? So they try and go build a business on 10 hours a week. Shocker, it doesn't work. And they were like, oh, I suck at this. Obviously, when it's not true, it just does indeed take work to build it for sure. I mean, especially like what I'm doing as a one-on-one coach. Like if I was like, I work 10 hours a week, but I have 20 clients, like what? Like it stops making sense. But people are out here doing stuff like that because they think it's what they're supposed to do. They think they're supposed to figure out what everybody's talking about that's popping and then go do that. Like you need to figure out what you can say I about all the time. I'm so proud of how I show up. I love how I show up in this. I think that this is really aspirational. I've built life in a way that blah, blah, blah. Like when you can do that, you will get your people. When you are not doing that, you're breaking trust, you're fracturing connected, and you are absolutely fucking your own mindset. Um, so this is just more important than ever. Like even from the client perspective, like I still try to talk about my clients all the time because I feel like it's so valuable and they have such different perspectives than me and they're having different experiences than me. But at the end of the day, like I will tell you, like what used to pop in terms of talking about client stuff versus what is now is different. Like I feel like when I used to do client lessons all the time, the absolute vast majority of people that hired me would cite that. I loved your client lesson on this. I'm obsessed with your client lesson on this. When you talked about this in a client lesson, blah, blah. Now, I can't remember the last time somebody mentioned that to me. I still talk about it because I like it and I think it's helpful to people. And I haven't quite let go of my grasp on value content yet. But I will tell you, it's like when I just did that round of open applications for one-on-one, in a previous world, half of those or more would have cited a client lesson. I don't think a single one did. Okay. Not a one. So if you want a spot next time, tell me you like my client lesson. I'm kidding. But it's just helpful to see that, right? Like it is helpful to see like things change, things transition, like some of it is easy to let go of, some we might go kicking and screaming. Hi, me with my client lessons, but like it really is different. And when we can acknowledge that is when it gets easier, right? So we're like, oh, okay, this is how they want to hear about it now. Interesting. Like I could fight that all day, or I could go, noted. Let me make my life easier. What am I embodied around? What am I feeling excited about? I mean, this is also shit you can even just like ask ChatGPT to help you with. Like you could go, ChatGPT, I really want to start talking about myself more personally in my content. Can you please ask me a bunch of questions to help me pull out stories and examples that I can use for that? Like this isn't that hard. It's just all of the other stuff behind it. Again, it's like the embodiment, the being the main character, that like all of that's the work, right? But like all of us have these things and these stories and these experiences. And quite honestly, if you're like, there is not a singular place in my life I am proud of or that is aspirational right now or whatever, then you still know what problem to solve. You still know what work to go do. Take us along the journey with you as you try to make that true again, you know? Lacey loves client lessons. Thank you. I appreciate you. But yeah, it's just like showing us like this is what the work is, you know? And I really believe like when we do this is when it gets so much easier. Nikki said, speaking of high value content, I got my first client just by listening to season 1 with Monica. Obviously, other things, but that helped me so much since she and I are in the same we're in the same season of business. So thank you. Just really can't sing literally his praises enough. Thank you, Nikki. But yeah, like I'm not going to change literally because I love that, but and I think the level of trust and transparency is very real there. But would I have created the same podcast today as I did however many years ago I started? Literally gone years. I mean, 7 years or something like that. Probably not. It's okay. I'm still gonna roll with it. I'm still gonna make it work. I try to share a little bit more personal snippets with clip-ins and stuff like that, but like we have to acknowledge that it's changed. And again, the best part of that change, in my opinion, is it's forcing us to be in more alignment, to be about what we're doing, what we're talking about. Like when you can be about what you're talking about and have that true alignment, business really does get easy, you know? Um, when you're always trying to manufacture a certain thing, business will feel harder. And so I think this is a really good thing for most of us. I think it helps us tremendously, but I think it's a hard thing to step into. So that is my call this week. Like that is all I have on that really is like, go find these things in yourself, in your business, in your life, go excavate them, go talk about them, like truly lean into that and watch how much easier it gets to create content. Make it feel real. Do it like, again, if you're like journaling and having an idea, flip on your fucking camera, like push yourself on these edges a little bit more if you can, and you will feel like what I feel now that's different to what I felt before. I mean, obviously what I felt before is creating content was a lot easier. What I feel now, that's different, is a lot more, um, what's the word I want to use? Like I have nothing to hide, if that makes sense. Like, not that I ever had anything to hide before. That's not quite the way I want to say it, but like it's like I'm all out there. You either get it or you don't get it. It's like the best filter in the world. And there is something really safety producing about that. When you have like the manufactured front, like I know for me, when I used to talk about like client results is like the whole thing all the time. Sometimes I would get clients that were like, okay, I just love that you got so-and-so such an amazing result. And I want you to get that for me. And I'd be like, whoa, like there's a lot more to it than that. And I would like feel like I needed to like really explain a lot more of that to like make sure I was getting the right clients, filtering for the right people. Now I'm like, you either get me or you don't. Like if you've listened to literally, if you watch my reels, if you've come to a live stream, you're either like, I roll with that bitch or I can't. Like it's just all out there. And that is quite safety producing. So I think that part is helpful too. Nikki said, curious, what would you do differently today if not structured like literally? I think it's such a disruptor. I mean, I'm not changing literally. I love it, but I think like I would probably make it more about my personal journey. I think the thing that's so cool about literally is how much we share, like the real shit and what people are really going through. But I think it's just different when I'm doing it about other people instead of about me. Like I have a lot of vulnerability, I suppose, and literally in the sense that I'm showing my full coaching, but like who you're really connecting with is the coachee. right? And so if I was thinking about it in the current landscape, I would be thinking more about like, how do I get them connecting with me a little bit more? Um, but yeah, like, listen, you can't win them all. And I'm definitely not changing that. I think from a conversion standpoint, it's really helpful because obviously people hear the coaching and either like my coaching or don't. But I think from like a true connection standpoint, it could be a little bit more interesting on that front. So I'm starting another podcast. Dear God, no. Tracy said reflection has been the most helpful tool for me personally. I think back to my life experiences and what I did that week usually presents a story I can tell in content. Totally like, and I think that's what makes it hard. I mean, Tracy, that's a great point is like, we have to stop and think in a way that we didn't used to have to. Like it does take that emotional and mental energy. It's why, again, like to bring it back to what I was saying about like I'm always doing it in my bathroom. That's when I'm thinking I'm doing this because what I do with my curls. That's when I'm thinking about it. It's like it used to just be like, oh, you have these like content pillars and then you go write about them. And it didn't take that same level of reflection or whatever. Now it does, and it's just different, right? But like also what a beautiful thing to go reflect on our own experiences and get to share them. I mean, I'm constantly baffled by the fact that like we get to make money doing that, you know? Um, like amazing, but also hard. So anyway, I hope that's helpful. Be embodied in the thing you're talking about. Find the micro ways to do that. Promise you almost any piece of content you're latching onto and loving right now is because someone is doing that. At least if you're feeling connected to them. I mean, you get what I'm saying. So yeah, worth a shot. Makes it a lot easier. Takes you out of imposter syndrome, makes your mindset much, much, much healthier. So that's all I got. I hope you guys love that. I'll see you. Will I see you next week? Yes, I will see you next week. And hope you have a beautiful week. All right, bye guys.